When Wild Bill Hickok sat down at the gambling table, he had no idea this was going to be his last day. Now, he'd had premonitions that his death might be around the corner, but he just didn't know it was so close. You see, he had just gotten married, and he had left his wife back in St. Louis or Cincinnati, and he was at Deadwood, getting ready to lead an expedition into the Black Hills to search for gold. He was going to stake a claim and send for his wife, and she was going to come out there, and they were going to build a life together. And this was Wild Bill's dream. He had been an Army scout and a spy, a stagecoach driver, a buffalo hunter, a lawman, a gunfighter, and he had lived this life of adventure, but he never really gotten to settle down. And with his wife now, he was ready to finally lay the pistols aside and just live a good life. Well, something was holding him back, and he kept putting off going into the hills to stake his claim, to just hang out in the saloon and drink a little more and gamble a little more. Well, the day before, he had taken all the money away from one of the town drunks. See, this guy was not super amazing or smart, and in fact, Wild Bill felt sorry for him, and after he took all of his money, he gave him some of it back and said, "Here, buy some food, and just stay away from cards for a while. It's just not really your game." And the man took the money and left, and Wild Bill didn't think anything about it. Well, the next day he went into the saloon and he got his customary drink and sat down at the table, but he couldn't sit down in the chair that he wanted. You see, Bill always sat with his back to the wall. He never sat with his back to the room or to a door. It was just something that he had learned he had to do since he had become so famous as the fastest gunslinger in the West. People were always trying to prove they were faster than him. But the man who was sitting in the chair that he wanted with the back against the wall wouldn't move. And even though Wild Bill asked him several times, "Hey, give me your chair, let me sit there," the guy just wouldn't budge. And so instead of leaving, instead of going to do what he told his wife he would do and start a claim, he sat down and started playing cards. And after a couple of hours of playing cards, that man that Wild Bill had beaten the day before came into the bar. No one really paid any attention to him. He wasn't flashy. He didn't have any kind of a reputation. He was sort of a nondescript nobody. But he noticed that Bill had his back to the room. And so it took him a couple of minutes, but he edged his way around. And then without saying a word, with no warning whatsoever, he pulled out a pistol and he shot Wild Bill Hickok in the back of his head. And then it was game over. Time was done. You see, Bill had no idea that that day was his last day. He had no idea that the very last thing that he was going to be doing was playing cards. His wife was devastated. His friends were devastated. And Bill Hickok, who had so many gifts, he didn't get to use a lot of them to build the life that he wanted. You see, people who knew Wild Bill knew that he had a good heart, that he was kind and generous for people. He was always willing to fight for people who needed someone to defend them. He was very strong. Everyone said he had an amazing physique, wide shoulders, narrow hips, big muscles. But he had a weakness, and that was in his character. He had so many gifts. He could have done so much good. But Wild Bill wasted so much of the time that he had in saloons with prostitutes, gambling. He had opportunities to make something of himself, to join companies or to build things, even to help his wife, who, by the way, was a circus owner. He could have worked hard and helped her with her show, but he didn't like that kind of life. Something drew him to the excitement of the gambling table and the life of a gunslinger. How much time do we have left? You know, a question I hear a lot is, when is Jesus coming back? Is it soon? And it's crazy. The more people I talk to, the more people, not even just Adventists, people who aren't Adventists, they're like, "I think Jesus is coming back soon. I think the world is about to end. I think time is running out." I'm not being morbid here, but what if today was your last day? What if this year was our last year? How would we live our lives differently? And I'm not talking about being crazy and selling everything that you have and standing on the street with a big sign saying the end is near. I'm talking about how can we use the time that we have for God's glory? You see, Wild Bill had so many gifts that were wasted at the gambling table. Do we have gifts that are being wasted in front of the TV or wasted while we're looking at our phone? Are there people in our lives that we could reach for eternity, but we just don't want to talk to them because they're annoying, or we're intimidated by them, or we're afraid of rejection? You see, the Bible is very clear. The men and the women who live life to the fullest, the men and the women who are the heroes of the Bible that we tell their stories to our children, they are the men and the women who lived for God's glory, not their own. Saul wanted everything to be about him. David, even though he wasn't perfect, wanted everything to be about God. What if today wasn't about you? What if it wasn't about making money for you, or building your reputation, or getting more likes, or getting your wife to do what you want to do, or your kids to fall in line with you? What if today was about bringing God glory? What if today we said, you know what, God? I want to, every time I think about it, ask God, how can I bring you glory today? How can I make you smile right now? At the end of the day, you won't be perfect. But I guarantee you that if you live that way, you will feel fulfilled. You will feel more fulfilled. You will have brought more joy. And if we start living like that, if today's our last day, or next week, or next year, or the next decade, whatever it is, if we start living for God's glory, when the end comes for us, we'll be able to hear God say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Because when we stand face to face and we look at Jesus, he's not going to say, how much money did you make? How many likes did you get? How famous were you? He's going to talk to us about the things that we did that brought him glory. The encouragement that we shared, the orphans that we fed, the people that we helped, the times that we shared the good news of the gospel. And then he's going to say, enter into my peace. Friends, I believe that our time is short. And that is not a scary thing. That is an exciting thing. God wants to use you to do something great for him. So today, let's start asking God, how can I live for your glory? And when he tells us to do something that's scary, remember to look up and to say out loud, God's got this. Thank you so much for listening today. Please share this message with someone who needs some encouragement. Subscribe to the channel, and if you guys have any questions out there, send them my way. I appreciate you, and I know that God wants to do great things through you. God bless you today.